My name is Lasso and Lasso's Passions. And what we do here during this period of live session, we just have a discussion. The topic is failure and how it's a requirement for winning. And so that's what we're going to talk about. Welcome to my trailer. It's a 30-footer. I own it. It's beautiful. Thank you very much. I have a beautiful garden. If you check out my other videos, I do on gardening, positive messages, a little bit of music, and I cover music, and then I do all kinds of stuff. That's why it's Lasso's Passions. Tomorrow morning at 3 a.m., we're going to be doing a little live read session. We'll be reading live the last chapter. I believe it's chapter 8 or chapter 7 of a book called The 100 Unbreakable Laws of Business Success. If you want some free education, blow your mind, you want to join that live session at 3 a.m. July 5th, tomorrow. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Subscribe, give me a like, a share, all that good stuff, all the good YouTube-ness that helps my channel grow. And I thank you. I thank you for being here. What I'm going to do is basically go over my story of how I failed and things like that. It's been a long road for me. It's been a long road, but like all journeys, we all have to experience it. There's no other teacher, greater teacher than experience. We can have mentors and guides, but ultimately, it's getting in there in the mud, getting our hands dirty, getting in there and really just dialing in, as they say, for the chance to fail. What is failing but just you just learned what the wrong way is, right? That's all failing is. You just learn what the wrong way is. That's all. And what happens when you learn? You tend to grow. When you grow, you tend to make better choices that have better results in the long run. And at the end of the day, you might as well be, you might achieve that goal of becoming, of winning that competition. Now, they say, let's just say in this analogy, right? And I'll go into my stories. And then I'll go and I'll explain it all, right? Why failure is such a requirement to succeeding. You can't just always, win all the time, because you might end up, setting yourself for failure that way, if you win all the time. Especially wins you didn't really deserve. Political wins, cheating wins, wins that are just like biased wins, things like that, or you hit the right political temperature, boom, you win that way. Not through talent, but through different means, which, is still in the same way, still winning, but to me, that's like a cheap kind of win. It's not a real, authentic win. But, it all builds confidence, right? The worst thing you can do is allow a failure to break your confidence, because that's where you really fail. Not to say that you're a failure. No, you're not a failure just because you failed here and there. The key thing here is learning from mistakes. That's the key thing, right? You're adapting. And the faster you fail, as they say, all the greats have said it. I'm just repeating all the greats, right? Michael Jordan has said it. He said he's missed, what did he say? 9,000, 5,000, 9,000 shots before really honing in. He got cut from the high school basketball team. There was moments where he had the winning shot and missed it, So he's failed quite a bit, and he's a prime example. He'll always be the most prime example of this, right? Because he has won back to back and has lost. He's won, lost 1, right? So it's pretty interesting. And he's lost quite a few times too. But for me, I've had some really big failures. I'm going to get into here in a minute, because the first thing we always do, what I do, and I'm sorry, and I always say I'm sorry, because the thing is that I don't want to make anybody, put off anybody. I don't want to insult anybody, right? And I don't want to insult anybody's intelligence. And just, I'm going to give you a warning. I do smoke marijuana. Now, I don't do it because it's cool. I actually have my medical license here in the state of Oklahoma. You're allowed, if you have your medical license, which you get through a doctor, your doctor is the one you talk to, and he says, okay, yes, this is good. He needs this because he's got anxiety and this stress and this and that. To be honest, I did a lot of research on THC back in the day when people were going through cancer and stuff, and I actually started doing it in high school as a way to alleviate stress through some pretty toxic friends, I would say. But lo and behold, it's still a staple, still a staple in my life. And so, if you'd like to join me, if you have your own, you know, if you have your own medical card and that, please join me, or light a cigarette, or do your vape, or drink some tea or coffee. This is how we're gonna do. This is how we're gonna dial in before I go into story mode. It takes a minute. You can't just go. I know YouTubers are like, see, this guy has got a long introduction. This guy, blah blah blah, whatever. Okay, pretend you're sitting here on a campfire. You're not gonna swipe away. You're still gonna sit here with me and chat. Okay, we're gonna chit chat a little bit and get to know each other. Just a little bit before I go into my story so I can dial it in. Now, I wasn't born originally in Oklahoma. Okay, I was born in Argentina, the capital, Buenos Aires. That's where my parents are from. But we ended up here around the third grade, for me, anyways. And I've lived in Miami, Florida, and before then, you know, I was in Argentina for a year as a baby before my parents moved to the States. Um, Basically migrated to the States. I was in third grade. We moved to Oklahoma. I've been here ever since. Ever since I've been here. Ever since. I've had some successes, some failures, some setbacks, some major wins, some surprise wins, some wins I didn't expect I was going to win, some failures, some losses that I didn't expect I was going to lose. Sometimes you expect you're going to win this one thing and it doesn't work out that way. So then what do? Well, you can't let something like that bum you out. I think a lot of people really misinterpret failing. They take it to a place where it hurts. And sure, that's okay. It happens to the best of us. I don't think I allow necessarily failure to hurt me anymore. Because if anything, I look at it as another rehearsal. It's another rehearsal, it's another practice. If I fail this time around, I know next time I'm going to adapt, I'm going to get better, I'm going to work harder, I'm going to push myself just a little bit more, just so I know that I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm doing everything I can to improve. Now, the thing is, this is going the extra mile. Before I go into the story, because I like what MJ said, Michael Jackson. He said that, you know, for him, when he was in high school and he was about to transfer to college, he went to his coach and he had a discussion. Right, the discussion was that they talked for a minute. The coach said, "Well, MJ said, he wants to be the best player." The coach said, "You're going to have to work harder than anyone." He says, "I'm doing just as good at working just as hard as everyone else." He's like, "No, you're going to have to work harder than that than anyone else if you want to be the best player in this game." So, with that kind of mentality, there's no wonder why MJ is a champion. He really wanted it. He wanted it bad. And he was willing to fail and fail and fail and fail and keep failing until he became, this giant. This I mean, I don't mean he's a tall fellow, but I don't mean that in the sense that he's giant. I mean his aura is giant. His brand is giant. What he stands for is giant. It's enormous. What he did is enormous. The championship. He's going to go down in history as the most athletic champion in of all of the history, possibly. He's up there with like Muhammad Ali, basically. And it takes us something that I know that I will add on to this from example. Let's take for example the YouTube. And before I jump in my stories, I want to keep giving you examples because I want to broaden the perspective here before we jump in, and I want to dial it in. I'm still dialing it in. So YouTube has been very interesting in that it's been a learning experience. You fail a lot. Yeah, like today, it just seems like I failed this morning. You know, sometimes you have your big wins, sometimes you have your big lose. Like for whatever reason, I was only getting really small views. You know, not sure why. I maybe didn't hit it right. Maybe I'm not doing it right. Maybe I'm not repeating the same topic but different content. That's what they say. Same topic but different content. That's what they say you need to do. And I'm like all over the board. So I think that's working against me. So but like I said, I'm still in my experimental phase. So that's part of failing, you know. And I think some people don't look at the long game because that's how you become a true champion. You really look at the long game. You may be failing here, there, and here and there. There may be somebody who's being more of a champion than you are. But if you're really honing in for the long run and not just thinking about, oh, this year and then this season and this quarter or whatever, like you think about long run, that means that you're thinking ahead, which means in moments coming in the future, your plan is to work harder and harder and harder on yourself. You know, you're navigating your life, you're adjusting, and as you think ahead in life, as you kind of dream ahead and think ahead, and as you kind of organize your life, and sometimes you write down your goals as part as dialing it in. You know, you'll see that after these failures of hitting walls and obstacles and delays and derailments and depressions, and it's just taking it day by day, but you know, really working it, really working it, really working it. What I mean by working it is whatever it is you're doing. If you're doing athletic stuff, then you're working out and doing athletic stuff. But if, let's say I'm a writer, you're working it. You're writing. YouTubing, I'm YouTubing. You know, if I'm doing the acting. Coincidentally, because I'm this year, I've been really going after my passions. Like a cowboy riding a horse, he's got his lasso, and I'm just going around and I'm honing in my lasso. You know, it's funny. It's so fitting. LASSO'S passions. You know, and so that eventually became the name of the YouTube, and so that's why that's why it's called. I go over so many passions, including this, just having little discussions. I've been doing it. This is the ninth one. Nine. I wouldn't say in a row because I don't go day by day by day, but essentially I feel it out throughout the week because I get so busy. I do the acting. You know, I do other gigs. I got other stuff I got to do. There's promotion that is lacking lately because I'm so focused and so honed in producing. It's essentially what I've been doing lately. I've been producing a lot of stuff, material, and it's a lot. It's draining. It takes energy, this and stuff, and so in a lot of ways, like if you overload yourself, in a lot of ways, you're setting yourself for failure. You know, because you're spreading yourself out too thin. And I think a lot of people don't talk about that, spreading yourself out too thin as part of failing, because you need to learn how to manage. And I discussed this in other videos, burnouts, if you have them. You know, if you have those burnouts, you know, there's managing that. You know, there's ways to manage and litigate your energy and where you are mentally before you just until you cross that finish line, boom, let go, right? I talk about that in a different video. I talk about how community is such a big importance in success, right? Now we're talking about failures now, but if you don't like, the opposite of community is not having community. And so you're setting up yourself for failure if you're not part of any community. It's really important. If you're watching this today, make it important to go out and look for a community to be a part of, whether it's a YouTube community that you go to and hang out with, whether it's a theater community, you want to learn acting and just be part of the group or be part of the performance with backstage, which like your first time, whether it's going to events regularly that are like centered around independent filmmaking, or if you do, you know, there's a regularity to it. And the best part is you genuinely have to make friends with these people, and you genuinely have to give people their time of day, you know, and they would genuinely respond back with authenticity. Well, you hope so, but at the very least they'll be friendly and they'll say, yeah, he's a real friendly guy. That's a positive thing. And if you don't do that, it's a big failure. If you don't go around introducing yourself and saying hi to everybody and being, hey, how's it going? And like actually giving people the time of day, because that's what you're there for when you actually showed up at a community meeting. You're there to just be social. It's not, I have trouble with shyness, which in turn looks like rudeness, which in turn sets me up for failure. So it's another thing, a fear of whatever. That's what shyness is at the end of the day. Is a way of it's a fear. It's a certain type of fear that freezes the you from moving forward. It's a type of overthinking too. It's like you overthink and then you suddenly you kind of shy away. And sometimes a lot of times mood can have a play with that. If you had a really rough morning, if you're dealing with conflicting people, it's going to affect your mood, and it's going to affect some outcomes too in your life. It might affect some outcomes. So people can tire you out, and so you got to be careful with that too, because if somebody wears you out to the point where you can't handle the situation, can't be responsible for what you're doing at hand to be able to win, then you're setting up yourself for failure once again. So, and another thing they say that failure comes because you didn't prepare. There's just something you didn't think about, something you didn't prepare for, and they say that the devil is in the details. What does that mean? I think to me that just means that the people who are really good at making deals and winning and shifting and getting what they want is because they look at the details of things, and they certainly pay attention to the details of or other people's details as well, because they're always looking for you know a way to win all the time, not to get one over people, but it's a way to just get ahead without screwing people over, right? And it's just thinking of ways of maneuvering, strategic ways, and these little maneuvers open up. They just come to you because you're you're in an attitude of winning, and when you're in an attitude of winning, opportunities seem to appear, and you seem to spot things when you're subconsciously and consciously just in that zone of winning, right, with that winning attitude. But when you're not, I mean, you're going to attract the other, right? If you're not, you're going to attract the other of opportunities, which is, not your opportunities. It might present itself, but you're not going to get it because you might be so honed in to the negativity of life that you're not going to dial in for the winning outcome, right? You're going to dial in for the losing outcome. That's why it's so important to choose what attitude you're going to have moment to moment to moment to moment, right? And these are things that you can easily shift. These are things that you can edit. And I talked about this, I think, in another discussion where you can be very aware about what you're thinking about. If you take a second to really consider what you're thinking about, what's running through your brain, what are you like, what are you thinking about? You know, you can really adjust your thinking. And when you adjust your thinking to a winning attitude, what's going to stop you, right? Only yourself. Only the idea that if you allow it as a poison to infect everything, or as a weed in the garden of positiveness, it'll grow, and eventually it'll choke the life out of your garden and negativity. It'll pollute your garden. It'll kill your garden. It'll destroy it. But here's the good news, though. Being derailed, yes, sucks because you get set back and you lose time. But it doesn't matter in a lot of ways, because you can change your attitude and win so big that it doesn't matter. All that time you spent won't feel like a loss at all because you won so big. But you can only get there by adapting, and you can only adapt by working every day and focusing your career, whatever it is, and really honing in and chipping away, and just as they say, you chip away at your craft. You do it every day. Maybe take breaks, like what I call the default life, the life that we all have. And what they say out there is keeping your wolves at bay. We all have our default life, and we all have the wolves that we have to battle. But at the end of the day, it's still your choice to be like, well, this is the time I have, and this is what I want to spend on, right? So, time management coincidentally, time management is the thing we're going to be reading about 3 a.m. tomorrow, July 5th, Central Standard Time. It's going to be a very interesting topic. It's the last chapter of the book, and we're going to be moving on to another book. And the other book that I'm hoping, sorry, I'm going to throw this in there real quick. Again, thanks for joining me, but this is good stuff. You don't want to, don't miss this. This is great stuff. I read from this book, and this is the last chapter, my 20th book this year. I feel bright. I'm not going to lie. I feel bright when you're learning, when you're reading, when you're filling your brain with good stuff. You just feel good, right? And on top of that, I'm eating healthier. I'm not going to lie. I sometimes snack on cookies. I'm trying to cut back on that by trying to eat more solids, which I'm doing. More fruits and vegetables, which I'm doing, but I still throw in a little sugary cookie there. It's one of my addictions of sugar. It's so bad. They say sugar is so bad for you. But I'm not a doctor, so consult with your doctor. But I'll say this. Look, success can be defined in many ways because we all have our goals, right? Like, you could have your goal, I want to reach $1 million at the age of 35, and if you don't hit that goal, then you consider it unsuccessful. But if you do, you consider success. So we all have our measure of success, right? And our measure of failure. And some other people have their own, and they'll judge the hell out of you with using their own way of measuring their own life for success. It's crazy. And sometimes successes are so propped up. People are propped up to look successful because it's a form of marketing. They're not necessarily didn't necessarily earn it. You know what I mean? It's totally. They did with whatever marketing and millions of dollars they pump in for marketing to market and market and market. I mean, can you imagine pumping millions of dollars for marketing campaign, and you're reaching millions of people with that? Of course. But if you don't have that, what do you do? Exactly, right? So, I guess you go viral. That's one way. That's the authentic way. That's the harder way. That's the real way. That's the real way you actually live life and you adapt and you learn something and you fail until you learn and you win. There are some people, it takes years. And I'll tell you, and I'm going to go right into my story once we do this. This is a perfect segue to toke up and go into my story. But for some people, it takes years, decades, before they actually reach a height of success that they kind of imagine, but maybe it even goes more, right? Or couldn't even imagine. And like I said, goes more, right? But it takes hard work of actually maintaining momentum, building that up, and putting in the work at what you do to create it, day in, day out, year in, year out, season to season, being consistent. Now, the true test for me right now, whether I fail or success, is the YouTube, and then, like I said, whether I get a negative comment, I don't look at it as, oh, I failed. I look at it as, okay, this guy or this gal brings up a good point. I'm going to take that into consideration and apply that to the next video that I do, or down the road, because I'm still experimenting and I'm not quite done experimenting with this. But once I get through all this, I'm going to apply that and get better at what I do. And I certainly do. There was a guy who said something negative about a Seinfeld episode that it was the explanation of Jerry's Tuesday was too long. It could have been shorter. And it's okay. The way he said it cracked me up because it was so, in a way, it was kind of rude, but you can't take it personal. You just look at it as, okay, this is where I failed, but it's not a failure because I'm taking what the guy's saying, I'm going to apply it, and I'm going to see how that changes, how it changes. So you can't, but that's the problem with failure, is that it can be so intense. We can put in so much work into something, so much energy, so much time practicing. Let's take, basketball, because I love it. Let's take Chicago Bulls. They go in the court, they practice. You got Michael Jordan yelling at everybody, no cameras on him. He's being really mean. But, the whole point is that, these guys put in a lot of work. They put in a lot of work. And sometimes they don't win. They haven't always won. And when they lose a game, you can see the pain. When they lose a champion, the Bulls lost a championship game with the Lakers, I believe. Was the Lakers? I don't recall the team, but it was a rough. It was it was their pre like champion. It was like I think pre Rodman. They actually lost to a team that Rodman was on, and they lost to another team that a player who was on the Chicago Bulls got traded into another team, and that team ended up winning. Was it Miami? I don't know, but it's crazy how little shifts can totally shift everything. And they had their losses, but MJ, he took he did take it personal, but he didn't look at it as, oh, I should give up. And that's what I mean. You should take it personal. It should piss you off. It should fire you up, but you shouldn't take it so personal that you quit. Never quit. Never quit. Even if you're depressed, you need some time alone. You're burned out. Don't actually quit. Get back in there and start the training. Start hitting it hard. And then trust me, because you've already done it before, and you're going through this whole cycle, you're gonna feel like it's like a feeling. You have a feeling for it now, right? You've got a little bit more experience. You're not so much a newbie. You've been through all the tough situations, and then it's going to be another year, another season. Let's go back to the basketball analogy. Now, there was a time early on with the Bulls, they lost, right? They lost to the Pacers. I believe it was the Pacers. And that team was rough. They played dirty. They were so rough. Jordan was not used to it. And so Jordan had to quickly adapt to their rough playing. Instead of letting it intimidate him and let it destroy his winning, they did win, but I'm saying long term, he trained until he got better, until they beat that team, right? They were just as equally tough or tougher back eventually. They fought back. That's the interesting thing about basketball. They play multiple games. And each team, every time they play a game, it's like the teams adapt to the other team's style. And I think that's why they always change it up a little bit, game to game to game. I think the coach, the smart ones, change the style, defense style, different approach. Of course, they have to change to adapt to whatever style the other team is doing, right? If they're doing something that's really getting one over them, they're going to have to quickly think, how do we adapt to the situation so we don't keep losing to this? Because we've lost 6 points. They're ahead 6 points with this maneuver. We got to think quick. We got to fix this. And so anytime you see a timeout and players rush out, that's what they're discussing. They're discussing, look, we're like, it's funny because most people think it's a pep talk. It's like, oh, go get them. No, they strategize really quickly in those whatever minute, 3, 2, 3, whatever minutes they have, 1 minute, whatever break they have, they go, okay, this is what you do. This guy's doing this, so much make you aware of this. So be on his ass, and you are too far back. You need to scoot up because this guy's. But don't let him get past you, because then he'll get past you and he's gonna fight. You know what I'm saying? It's like quick. And so that's failing, assessing, almost having an outsider look at and study the game. And he tells you, it's almost like having a mentor. And he tells you, look, this is what's going on. This is where you guys are screwing up. And if you don't listen to me right now, because I've seen it with my eyes, I'm letting you know what's going on. So you got to trust me what I'm saying. Do this, and I promise you'll counter it. You'll counter it, you'll attack it, you'll win it, and trust me. So that's what I find interesting about basketball, is that there's time for coaches to really just talk to the players every now and then. You study the game, and then you talk to the players to readjust to what the game is. How it's going. And it's a lot of fun to me. And you get. I mean, it all goes across the board of every athletic game: football, soccer, whatever you want to say, even rugby, whatever. Even other competitive sports, competitive fields, NASCAR and stuff like that. It's all It's all on the adjustments during the game. That's kind of how life is. When you're in this game of life and you have something that you're working towards, a big event or something that and you fail, but you can only do that if you overcome one of the most important obstacles, because or else if you don't do that, then you're guaranteed to fail. And so, but this is one of those things where you keep failing until you make the right adjustments, right? And those include the mind, those include the physical, those include your community, like I talked about in the other episodes, like having those columns that support you. So those are the little adjustments you make as you fail, as you put yourself out there and get a taste of life, and the life will, you know, metaphorically bust your teeth out, and then, but you can't allow that. You can't allow that to be it. You go, okay, I got smacked in the face, I'm done. That's it. No, 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 no. You just had one of the most life changing experiences of your life. Yes, maybe you're in a lot of pain. And yes, maybe this loss, this failure could hurt and be painful. But that's where you use that pain and the loss that drives and fires that pain. Well, now you use that pain to fire your motivation. So it's not a complete loss because things are changing. Like your attitude, your spiritual, your fire, your energy. You go from getting beat up or whatever, losing, right, to allowing yourself to get upset and angry that this happened to you, and this, like, not that you're gonna lash out like a crazy person, but there is such a thing as anger. We do feel these emotions, and if you look at the Michael Jordan interviews and all that stuff, he when he lost, he took it very personal, and when he won, and I'll get to that here in a second. And I'll get to my stories. We got plenty of time. We're just now reaching the 30-minute mark. We got plenty of time for my story. My stories aren't that interesting, but what I'm talking about is a lot more interesting. Setting up the whole philosophical aspect of it all and everything you can do to win. But that's it. That's the key. There's no secret to it. It's just failing early, failing often, and looking at the failures as learning opportunities, and not allowing the pain to just completely kill you and kill the momentum, and it's okay. Sometimes you win, fail, but just because you fail doesn't mean you can't win again. And just because you win, fail, win, doesn't mean it kills your momentum. It just means you had a bit of a lump, but you could still get it. You could still get right back to where you were and get back past to where you were, where you thought you were doing good. You can go past that. Eventually you will, and eventually you might hit a new low. That's life. You're constantly learning, constantly. If you're open to it, you're going to be constantly failing, constantly adapting and learning, whether you're conscious of it or not. Subconsciously, you're going to be learning, and you would hope for that anyways. At the very least, subconsciously, you're learning. So the more time you spend scared and allowing fear to cut you from moving forward, that's where you're cutting success. That's where you're hurting your success, because you're afraid to fail. And that is the killer of success is afraid of failing. That's the number one killer. I've seen so many people who won't even take a step forward towards their dream because they're completely afraid of failing, the first time, because they don't think about, the second time, and the third time, and the fourth. They don't think about it. They're fixated on the very first time. It's easy to do that. It's because we get stuck in a whirlwind of emotions, of fear, anxiety, stress, that it becomes too much, right? And if we don't know how to manage that, then it also becomes another cyclical part of failing, and then we're okay with making up excuses, like, we get stuck in this cyclical twirl of emotions of stress, anxiety, and fear, and then we say, you know what, this excuse sounds nice. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble. I have a headache. I'm sorry, I can't do it. That's going to kill your motivate. That's going to kill your momentum. Anytime you bring up an excuse to not do something or push something back when you know you can do it today, that's going to kill your momentum. The only way to really, and this is part of, I don't know if I'm in a discussion about momentum, I might have to, because that in itself is like an art form. That the momentum that you create in whatever you're doing, your business, or you're being vocal in politics, or in my case, it's YouTube. I've been trying to keep the momentum going as I go, as I go, as I go, as I go. It's not always easy because you're going to have issues, but like I said, just because you dip a little bit doesn't mean it's the end of the world, and that you just, let's say, you should just give up. It doesn't mean that all that effort you did was a waste, because as soon as you start switching to negative, you allow what's going on around you to affect you in a way where now you're completely getting derailed. You're getting derailed. You're losing your confidence. You're losing that positive vibe. And all you really have to do to stay there by maintaining that is through a meditation process, through a what I call an editing process of the mind and your thoughts, like a filmmaker. You edit what you think about, you cut out the bad, throw it away, and then piece it back together and have the good flow, like you would want a good movie, And I talk about all these different processes and these different adjustments, and all that stuff. But let me tell you something interesting. My life, I've felt quite a lot, and there's still a lot of things I'm failing at. I'll just be honest. And but I'm noticing the more I fail, the more successful I am. So. And sometimes you have little wins, and sometimes you have little failures. But the thing is, you do not want to cultivate and build momentum, even if you're not aware of it, because sometimes maybe you're not aware, you're going to cultivate and build momentum for negativity. And that once you're down that road and that train is headed that way, and it's going full speed, it becomes harder and harder to stop and to manage. It's there is a way to pull the brakes on the train and go, and just like it's not gonna be a quick, oh, let's change your attitude, yippity yip. No, the further you go down one way, and let's say you go down that way, negativity town, the harder it is to get out of that. The harder it is. So that's part of success is you got to get out of the negativity town into the positivity town. Move, jump on the train going, eastbound, whatever, positive town. It's going to take some time. It'll pick up speed, and eventually you're flying through. And the next thing you know, you're just in a place where you just feel like you're in the zone. You know what I mean? So that's pretty important, is knowing how to keep your train of momentum. Let's use that metaphor, the train, because it is a train. Once you start going one direction, whether it's this way or that way, it's going to go. The train, as soon as you wake up, I actually never heard anybody use this analogy, so it's kind of a cool one. As soon as you wake up, that train of momentum has left the station, right? Now, there's times where you can change the direction a little bit at a time, right? How like the old school, you push a lever, there's a track that moves. Well, those changes, whether they're negative or positive, that's what's happening. And so every change, every increment, every thought of negativity or positive is a change, right? And you're adding the momentum to the speed of the train. It's going to go that direction. So that's why you could easily be an engineer, a railroad engineer, if you will, if you use that analogy, and say, okay, this train is going a little bit too much the negativity track, negativity way, negativity town. Let's pull the lever a little bit, adjust it, so we go towards the other way. You know what I mean? And so, if you ask anybody, attitude, he's got the winning attitude. He's got the winning attitude. And it's not a facade. You're going to be tested. Life is going to test you like a son of a bia. Sheesh. You know what I'm saying? Shizzle. My nizzle, for jizzle. I don't know where that came from. I apologize on behalf of the human race. But so my failures came in with figuring out this whole community thing. I started out this indie showcase thing. The indie showcase is something that came about because it's like a film festival, but it was like the very first thing. It was very community driven. It was like what do you call it, grassroots, and it still kind of is, but it's kind of reached a new level, which is pretty nice. So like my film festival, you can go to Film Freeway and you can see that it's on there. It actually opens in August, so woo-hoo, excited about that. International reach. It's pretty amazing. And this time, last time I didn't market it. This time I'm going to market it and see if I get more people from around the world to submit. Um, but I had my failures with the indie showcase. Holy cow! With not just the indie showcase itself with events, but with places and like for example, Circle Cinema and the community there. I mean, it was a huge failure. I mean, it's just huge failure. Like it kind of haunts me like every day in a way, and so that motivates me to do better like every single day. It's crazy. So that's just, you never know how your failures are going to motivate you afterwards, but they do. Of course, you're in the moment and things happen to you. You can't. It's hard to litigate all that, to manage that, and to do time management, and to deal with default life while you're in a tornado of emotions that you just got a little bit derailed, and it happens to the best of us. It happened to me. It happened to me like a few times in my life. Sometimes you have these mental breakdowns that are called psychosis, and these are known things in the mental health world. And I've seen it in others, and I've experienced it that I know of one time for certain that I really had it. I think I've went through it before, but you just get so detached from reality. It's insane. There's a philosophical question: what is reality? But we know what it is. We know what reality is. We know if we do certain things, we will die. We have an idea what life is. Life is an organism, and it takes air in the right situation, right temperatures for organisms to go around. And if you look at 100 years in seconds, we kind of look like little cells that appear and pop and die. You know what I mean? Like we're not that interesting if you look at time that way. We grow like moss and we appear, and then once we're dead. And then like it's just so sad because everyone's personalities is like an art form. Everybody's life is like a beautiful art. Everybody's a beautiful masterpiece. The human soul is like the ultimate construction of life and expression through art and everything we express. Like it's the ultimate life expression in a lot of ways. And in a lot of ways, probably our intellect is what our most, is what our spectacular, whatever you call it, about our species. Other animals have their own spectacular thing that we would die. I mean, we're not as fit as a whale to cross oceans. That's a creature that can cross oceans. We need to build machines and things to do that. You know what I'm saying? So our intellect gets us there. But we're talking about naturally to the world. That whale can do that without building anything. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. So there's a lot of power. There's so much power. Just some creatures have their own like power. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. Can you imagine if we could figure out as a human species to use whales to push boats? Is that possible? Is there a way to control whales? Like maybe there's another boat in front of it leaving a trail of food or something, and it's just like pulling another boat. Or it's like a boat that's connected, and then in the middle you got the whales, and they're pushing, they're moving forward. There's some weird idea there. I mean, probably there's some animal cruelty to that, but can you imagine like whale power as using that to get around with boats? That'd be insane. But who knows? Who knows? Maybe someone with a crazier idea would do something like that. But that's experimenting. That's part of failing. Edison, the light bulb. How many times did he fail until he actually created the thing he wanted to create? You know what I mean? And when you really think about what Edison created, it was gonna happen anyways. I mean, if you look at like just the idea of fire, lightning bugs, this idea of like there being current and like sparking something to make or essentially what a lamp is a wire that heats up and it creates a light. That's all it is. It's not it's not like it's not a huge breakthrough. You know what I'm saying? He just figured out by accident, by messing around probably, that this wire would light up and stay lit up and heat it up. And all you had to do, that coil would heat up, right, was build a little glass casing around it, and presto, you got yourself a bulb. But now we're so beyond that. If you really think about a breakthrough, it's the LED lights. That's a real breakthrough of light design and all that. It's kind of a sad thing to say, like, oh, that was only 100 years ago or 200, whatever, 100 years ago, we invented electricity. That's sad. If you really think about it, for how long humanity has been around, it really took that long. That's insane. Again, I guess you had to go through all the different revolutions in order for certain products to become existent. People take certain products, put them together, and next thing you know, oh look, two cables. Oh, there's a current. Oh, what? Oh, psh, sparks. What the fuck is this? You know what I mean? Like it just takes people playing with the modern tools that exist, and then mixing other tools and mixing other ideas to create other tools. That's our genius as humanity. You know what I'm saying? There's a beauty to failing. Failing is humanity's like beauty. You know, there's so much beauty in failing. It's incredible. If you think about working out, what are you doing? You're pushing your muscles until they fail, until you push them and push and push them. They're failing. They're failing. They're failing. I mean, that's how you get the muscle. You push till they fail. You know, and there's something beautiful about accepting that truth. That the only way you're going to get better is by failing. So in the Indie Showcase, as large as it is, all my events and everything that I've done, there's been successes, but there've been a lot of failures, you know. And then, of course, there's the end result of a campaign. Like, let's say I've done a campaign of like 50 events, right, that I planned out, this and that, and I do. And the end result is, well, not that good. That's a huge failure, you know. But look at now. Look how things have been adjusted. I didn't give up. I just adjusted things. And May 31st, I had a film festival, my first film festival via Film Freeway, you know, because it was hard doing the grassroots. And everybody is like, oh, you know, you're a fake, or this isn't real. Watch out. People spreading rumors like, oh, he's just stealing your film. Like, so many bad things. Like, I was literally just starting out. You think people will like be like, oh, you're starting out? Well, let me help you. No, it was like almost the opposite. The only help I got was because I had to really be like, hey, I need help. Oh, back, oh, please. Like, I was like pleading people. Oh my God, please help me. Please help me. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was so much work, and everybody saw it as like a clout chaser type thing, not actually me helping the community, which sucked. The reason why people thought that was because when I pushed the marketing, I would put me in the poster. But let's face it, it was my event. It was Lasso puts on community screenings. That's the event. So I'm going to be on the poster. Why would I not put myself in the poster? It's the stupidest thing. So many people, all the filmmakers and actors were getting pissed that I kept putting me on the poster. And then so I said, look, if you want to be on the poster, come over, come to this photo shoot, schedule it, because I have to do marketing and nobody fucking comes. So if nobody's fucking coming to do marketing, how am I supposed to put your picture? You know what I mean? So I opened the doors gracefully. I was a little more graceful than that. I opened the doors and nobody fucking showed up, but like one guy one time, and he ended up just walking. He ended up moving to fucking Atlanta. So like didn't fucking I promoted him and everything, and after I promoted him, he fucking moved. So he fucking used me is what he did. You gotta be watch out. He was a fucking punk. He was so nice. He was nice. He used me to promote himself and never did a fucking thing. Never did a fucking thing. He lied to me. He said he was, and he fucking moves to Atlanta and says, oh, yeah, dude, like I just, you know, this is just something that happened. Bullshit. He fucking knew he was going to move. He was just trying to figure out a way to get one more hurrah, you know, his name out there and stuff. And he used me. He used me good, too. you can look at that as a failure. I got to be more careful about who I promote. And and what's funny is when I do put a filmmaker on the poster, there's one guy who questioned it. He's like, "Why'd you put me on there?" I was like, "All this complaining about not being on the poster. I put a picture of you, and now you complain that you're on the poster. Like, what the hell, dude? Like, what is your deal? Like, I can't win." That's the thing. You gotta watch out for people that make you feel like you can't win. That's a trap. That's a trap by people who just fucking don't want to let you win. That's how you know. You might have friends who have that kind of attitude, but that's okay if you have a friend like that. Just let him be, whatever. Don't take his you don't take his opinion to heart, because everybody has their opinions, and for you, the only way you can keep winning is if you stay true to your opinions. You don't like move around, and you don't let it shift just because that guy, everybody thinks his opinion is better. Ooh, oh, he thinks this of you, then that's the opinion that you should think of you. No, you should never take on the opinions of others onto yourself. You never do that. Never. Even the good. Even if someone is praising you and like you're a god, don't let that shit screw with your head, man. Don't let it derail you, because it will. It'll get you thinking funny. Next thing you know, your humility is out the door, and you're looking like a guy who is, trying to do all this for one reason, to make himself famous, right? It's pathetic that happens, that strong of a judgment. Nobody saw all the work I did. Nobody cared for all the work I did. Nobody cared for all the money I was pouring in. Nobody cared for all the meetings I had. Sometimes there were meetings that just ended up with people walking away most of the time. So I had more failed meetings than winners. But out of those winners, I got sponsors. You know what I'm saying? I ended up getting sponsors. But that's how it goes. You're going to find yourself in a position where it's easy to give up and to give in to failure. It's really easy. And the thing is, especially when you're starting out and you don't have momentum, oh my God, it's so easy to be like, oh yeah, this excuse sounds nice. I'm sorry, I gotta have a vacation with my family. Sorry, I can't do this. I know I said I could, or I was going to, but last minute change. And we know we've been talking about it, the last minute change. I'm sorry, big excuse. I can't do it. Cop out. Not that I'm saying a family vacation is a cop out. You should totally have time with your family, but you should schedule it accordingly. You shouldn't use it as an excuse. You know what I'm saying? Like, what I'm saying is it becomes easier. Anything that pops up becomes a really easy excuse. It's to cop out. So we gotta be careful with that. Be very careful with that. Like, not drink that poisonous cup that says, oh, don't do this. You'll have time for more comfort. You'll have less stress in your life. Oh, do not drink that cup of poison. Do not do it. You're gonna set yourself for failure if you start drinking that cup of poison of all that negative thinking. Oh, this, oh, that, oh, okay, or just this or that. Oh, maybe tomorrow, or no. That's a shitty attitude. That's a failing attitude. I'll be honest. It's easy to get on that track, to build momentum, to then be quitting. That's why I say when you everything is like a train. Your attitude is like a train, and it starts the very minute you wake up. I know I'm repeating myself, but it's like it all circles into what I was saying. So May 31st was another event I had this year. My Indie Showcase was the biggest film festival this year that I've ever had. It was a huge success, and I only had that success because prior I had 4 years of events and putting on events and putting on events, and lo and behold, I adapt. I go, okay, this was too much. I did a 2-day event, that was too much for one person. I try adapting by adding more people to help me, but the people were unreliable. So I haven't quite built enough momentum to where I can, instead of relying on my friends, I can just straight up hire people. Now I have employees, and if they're not good employees, they get fired. And if they're good employees, well, guess what? Maybe you'll get promoted to another job that I need as an entrepreneur to help me out. And maybe I'll pay you extra on the side to help me out on side gigs, to just help me out as an assistant. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not quite there yet. But I know if I keep at this, I'm going to get there. And I can only say that to cycle through, you know, the May 31st event was a success. I made the theater money. You know, it wasn't about me. I didn't make the money. I even poured in money for it, like I usually do, the same amount. But this time, it was a huge success. And so, in my mind, as long as the film festival happens every year and it's a success, people are leaving happy and they have their thing and everything. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and it takes me about 3 months of organizing and planning and doing it. And so, and when I get into that mode, it's the same mode I'm in with YouTube. I'm in it every second, every day, hour to hour. You know, I'm just in it from the minute I wake up to the minute I go to bed, because that's what it takes. That's what it takes for that momentum to build. You know, and I was thinking in my head, this is an experiment, and it's okay to have that mentality where you go, okay, this is an experiment for me to learn. I'm not going in this to win it. Or or you could say, okay, look, I'm putting a lot of training in this and a lot of time. I'm gonna go do my best. And here's the thing: when you always go do your best and you give it all, even if the outcome is you losing to the other team, or you like I did the other day on the show, I flubbed a line and a half. Okay, but I had rehearsals this last Wednesday when we went over it, nailed it, nailed it, nailed it, nailed it, nailed it. And the director, I looked at him and he was looking at me and he goes, you know, nailed it. So I had time to practice. I had time to go back and work on that, and so my goal for tomorrow, or at least tonight, is to go over my lines a little bit and just kind of go over just a little bit. So when I sleep, the lines are kind of in there. So the last thing I'll do before I go to bed, and then basically tomorrow morning I'm going to go over the lines. I'm going to do what I usually do so that I know I'm going to have and prepare for the best outcome, so I don't fail. Because failure would be never looking at the script once. I go to I go to tomorrow without looking at the script, not even once. I don't have the right clothes. I don't get there on time. I flub more than one line. Let's say I flub 3 lines. That's a huge failure for an actor, in my opinion. If you flub 3 lines, that is bad. That is bad. And I was halfway bad. Like I said, I flubbed a line and a half. A line and like 2 words, 3 words. Actors, like if you're like me, you'll beat yourself up for it. Even though it was seamless on stage, nobody noticed. I aim for perfection. You as an actor, hitting your marks, sounding authentic on stage, win. You're listening, win. You hit all your lines, your cues, the timing, win. You miss one, it feels like you miss a shot in a basketball game. So when you hit all these marks and you're hitting everything, it's like a perfect game. And they say in the basketball there's no perfect game, but in theater, you can get away with a perfect game. You really can. You can aim for a perfect game and fucking get it in theater. You can still miss some shots here and there, and then you're close. But if you hit everything just perfect, people laugh at your jokes. The energy's there. It's just on point. All the actors are on point too, because that's important too. They have to be on point, because if they're not, then you're not going to achieve a perfect game. Because acting is heavily reliant on the other person on stage, and then the audience reacting. That's you are drowning as an actor if you don't have good actors to rely on and an audience to rely on for energy, for laughter, for whatever. You need that as an actor. On stage at least, to win, to be successful. So yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up there. That's pretty much. I went over a major failure I had back in the day. With my indie showcase. I mean, it was bad. It was bad. I ended up pushing a lot of people away because people have such an air about themselves, this arrogance that they think they know it all. And here I come along, they've never heard of me. I have no credentials, but I've studied this all my life. I've made my own feature films by myself. I'm an award winner, even though it's just small festivals. Well, whatever. I still won these things. Okay, you can't take that away from me. I'm not just some guy who never did anything. To say that I don't have any experience or any say in this is ridiculous, because I have a lot to say as an indie filmmaker, and I've had a lot of people come up to me in this town and say, "You are a voice for independent filmmakers here." So and that's kind of the point, is that in a lot of ways, not that I'm trying to be a voice, but I want to be able to voice my opinion so I can be heard as an independent filmmaker in this town. And so the fact that people are telling me that you're being heard, that you're being seen is to me, it allows me to release a lot of anxiety and a lot of just resentment I have for the community for really pushing me out. And that's the other thing that will lead you to your failure. If you try to seek revenge outside of seeking success, you're gonna head towards failure. You're gonna immediately head. You're setting up that train for failure, and you're going speed on head if you choose revenge in a negative way, which is easy to do when you're being competitive. You could snap and have a fight on the court. Anything can happen. Like full speed, 1,000 miles per hour. It takes 3 seconds. I've seen it on the basketball court. I've seen it in real life happen. You can just get so mad at whatever's going on that gets you there, and you just snap and it happens. You know what I mean? It takes a lot. But look at a basketball game, you see players getting pushed and shoved, especially the ones that are like the target, because they know they're the ones that keep scoring, and they're the winners, right? The ones that carry the team. So they're always going to like go and attack. And that's just a fact of life. When you're winning all the time, people are going to want to attack you more. That's just a fact of life. It's just, and I've experienced it. And as I go experiencing attack after attack after attack, I don't quit. Yes, they set me back. They felt like knockouts. They felt like getting knocked out and pushed out and getting my teeth knocked out. But here's the thing. I never looked at it as, oh, that means I should just hang my hat, quit, and that's it, call it quits. No, I hung in there, fought back, made my presence known through winning awards. The award that this guy and his whole niche community trying to push me out, I've won it. He was winning this award, best this at this film festival, best that at this festival, best that. He's not even an Oklahoman, right? He just moved here. He's winning. Boom! I get knocked out. I come back. Boom! Knock him out. I win. You know what I mean? So it's you got to come back. You have a time to adjust to what happens in life. There's somebody going to be better than you. They're going to come out of nowhere, and you have a chance to prove to yourself that the stuff that you're really made of is really real. And you'll prove to everybody else, and I've done it. Everybody who sees me getting back on my feet, winning month after month after month, just winning, whether it's the art stuff that I win with, whether it's the theater that I win with, whether it's the film festival, whether it's the independent movies I'm in, you know what I'm saying? It's just every month, I don't know what's coming. I have no idea. I don't have a plan actually I do for October. There's a big one in October that I don't have no problem telling you. No, I'm going to give it a surprise. I have a surprise October for everybody. A surprise October. I'm not going to say anything. I'm just saying it's going to be a big surprise. And it's going to be another huge, enormous win for me in my life. And it's I'm not going to announce it. I'm not going to say anything, but all I'm going to say is that it's huge. I don't mean to say that to be like Trump, because I don't copy him. I say that too. It's going to be enormous. Okay, it's going to be enormous. And one of the biggest reasons why it's going to be enormous is because of who I'm being working along with. That's why. That's why it's going to be enormous for me as an actor, as an entertainer, and as a performer, whatever, YouTuber, whatever you want to call it. It's somebody with a big name that I get to spend a lot of time working with. Just like, oh, I appear one time, twice on set, like I have before. This is actually working with the guy day in, day out, every day for this thing. Being along with the big name. I think that's going to be helpful in my career. I think it will be a little bit. And for a lot of people who are you know. And the thing is, the October thing is nice because last year I did it, and I was like really good about it. I was like one of the main characters in this thing, and so now it's coming back this year. I almost slipped. I almost said what it was. I almost slipped, but no, now it's happening again this year. You know, I'm set because they know how good I am. They know about my character and how good of a job I did last year, and so I'm in. It's not like I have to be like, hey, can I be a part of this? No, I was already a part of this, and everything's good. There's been no drama in between, nothing. I just got to coast until October comes, and then obviously do pre-work in September or sorry, August, and then yeah, August. Sorry, August, and then yeah, man, it's gonna be a great October. It's gonna be a really great October. It's gonna be an October surprise. October surprise. But yeah. Anyways, I'll leave it at that. And till next time, folks. I don't know when I'm going to have another discussion. I don't know when I'm going to be inspired to talk about something. But that was it. That was our discussion about failure and what are the requirements of success. You can't succeed without failing and failing and failing. So that's it, guys. I'm Lasso. My name's Lasso. Thank you for joining me in Lasso's Passions. This is my channel on YouTube. Thank you, YouTube, for creating this amazing platform for everybody to have access, and whoever can have access and all that stuff. And let's leave it at that, folks. Till next time. I'll see you later. Give me a sub, a like, a share if you don't mind. Until next time. See ya. Bye bye. Bye bye now. Bye bye.